The simple answer is, I'm a procrastinator. Hi everybody, it's George here, the Walking Fool. It's been a while. I'd explain, but why? Anyway, the reason I'm here today is to bring you a video. This one's mostly for folks who don't know a lot about the trail, family, friends, people who have just wandered by and for some reason decided to watch it. For those of you who that do know about the Appalachian Trail or have some idea or watched videos before, this may have some valuable things in here for you. No reason not to watch it. Get some insights into just where my head's at, what I know, what I don't know. Feel free as I go through this to go ahead and let me know what I missed, because I'll probably miss some things. But basically it's going to be just answering basic questions about the trail, about what I'm trying to do here. So let's get stuck right in. First of all, I guess questions people, I've reduced it to a who, what, where, when, why, and how. So the who is obvious. It's me, the Walking Fool, or George, or Walking Fool may end up being my trail name. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll figure it out. The what is the Appalachian Trail? It's an easy concept. It's a trail. You walk the trail from Georgia to Maine. I want to go in a little more detail about it. Appalachian Trail was first conceived by a guy named Benton Mackay. This was back in 1921. The ATC, Appalachian Trail Conservancy, it went by, what did it go by? The C stood for something else before that. I think it was Commission, perhaps. But it is now the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. And that was founded in 1925. This is 2025, so we're looking at the 100-year anniversary of the Appalachian Trail Conservancy. Construction began with volunteers, mostly volunteer driven, still is to this day volunteer driven. 1922 to 1937 was generally the construction dates. Now, construction has never stopped, there have been reroutes. The trail today is not the same exact trail that existed in those first years. There have been reroutes. There have been the starting point has changed. It used to be Mount Oglethorpe in Georgia. Now it's Springer Mountain in Georgia. Closest town is, I guess you would say, Gainesville, is where a lot of people get shuttled. They go from Atlanta to Gainesville, and then from Gainesville to Amicalola State Park. From Amicalola State Park, there's an approach trail. The approach trail is over 8 miles long. There's a lot of stairs, and then you follow the approach trail before you get to the actual terminus of the trail on Springer Mountain. I intend to hike most of the approach trail. I am going to skip the stairs because it doesn't count, and why? I mean, there's reasons people would. I'm not going to. That's that. But I will be hiking most of the approach trail. So for me, it's going to be like, I think 8 miles or so, 7 or 8 miles to the top of Springer, where the trail officially begins. I may camp there. I may not. From there, you travel through the rest of Georgia. I think it's like 70 odd miles of Georgia, and then you cross into North Carolina. Once you get to the Smokies, you're in and out between North Carolina and Tennessee for a lot of that. Then you finish your stint in North Carolina, and then Tennessee has it all to itself for a little while. Then from Tennessee, you go into Virginia, which has the longest section of trail. Virginia covers about a quarter of the trail. From Virginia, you cross into West Virginia, which has a very, very, I think it's 6 miles. So you wave hi to West Virginia, then you're on to Maryland. From Maryland, you go into Pennsylvania. From Pennsylvania into New Jersey into New York into Massachusetts, on to Vermont, and then New Hampshire, and then Maine. So that's the goal. And we're walking from northern Georgia to central Maine, all on foot. So that's what I'm doing. That's the what. When is March 6th. I think I've mentioned that already. This coming week, coming up, today's Sunday. It's the divisional championships in the NFL. That's a good time marker. This week, by the end of the week, I'm turning in my 2 weeks notice at work. 2 more weeks at work. So February 14th is when is going to be my last day at my job. And then those last 2 weeks will be mental and physical preparation. Well, I mean, all that stuff started, but I can be more intense about it without distractions. I don't have to worry about weekends, doing it on weekends. The why. The why is a big question. And it's a legit question. The thing is, there's so many factors involved. And I'll probably reveal a lot more of that once I get on trail. I'm walking down the trail. I want to talk about things. And that's where I'll probably go into that in a lot more depth than I will here. For now, suffice it to say, I've gone through a lot of my life taking the easy path. The path of least resistance. I'm making a conscious decision at this point to take the path of utmost resistance. The Appalachian Trail was designed by actual sadists. People who genuinely want you to die. I mean, obviously I'm kidding. But they didn't pick the easiest route. They didn't, well, let's send them through meadows and valleys and nice places where proper people go to enjoy themselves. No. The Appalachian Trail was designed with the most arduous journey that they could imagine. You're not skirting around mountains and looking at mountains. You have to climb the mountains, and it's not a picnic walk by any means. It will test me. It will test me, and I want to be tested. Experience that hardship. I want to be rained on. I want to be miserable and cold. I want to be reduced to my core elements. I want to test myself as a human being. Now, that's not to say I want it to be an adversarial relationship with the trail. I want to get along with the trail. I want to have a symbiotic relationship with the trail rather than a contentious one, rather than I'm going to beat the trail. Because I'm not going to beat the trail. The trail is going to kick the living crap out of me. And this next question is kind of loaded. Is it safe? Like, will I be in danger? You're walking out into the woods with a backpack by yourself. How dangerous is that? How dangerous is it? And the realistic answer is not much more dangerous than going through your normal life. It really isn't. The dangers are different. In some cases, the life you're living might be more dangerous than what I'm attempting. Some of the dangers that we might identify are, well, let's talk about some of them. First, well, you're out in the woods, animals, wild animals. Let's talk about those. I made a list of a few. and I'm peeking down because, I got to keep my thoughts together because I get scattered and go down rabbit holes really easily. First, let's talk about bears. Let's talk about bears. There will be bears on the trail. Will I see any? I don't know. Many people do. Some people have many bear sightings on their way up the trail. Many people don't see one at all. It's hit or miss. But the bears themselves are not a huge danger. They are more, it's cliche, but they're more afraid of you than you are of them. They will run from you 99.9% of the time. It's important to be safe with the bears, to store your food properly when you sleep. Get into that. If you do proper food storage techniques, follow leave no trace principles, you're generally not going to have problems with bears. Your biggest concern about bears is, will I see one and will I get it on camera so everybody else can see the bear? Other than that, not too worried about bears. Moose, when you get up north, mostly New Hampshire and Maine is where you might have it. You'll see moose scat, you'll see signs of moose. Your chances of seeing an actual moose, pretty slim, but it's there. You don't want to piss around with moose though. Keep your distance. Not a huge danger. Something to be aware of, but not a huge danger. Rodents. Now they're small, they're teeny, but they're as far as a threat to safety, not necessarily, not really, but they are a threat to your gear. They are a threat to your food, but as an existential threat, not really. They're a pain in the ass, and they might eat your food. They might chew through your stuff if you're not careful. A lot of that is if you are intent on staying in a lot of shelters. Occasionally you may have to stay in a shelter. The shelters, they have people. And when you have people, you have food. When you have sleeping people, you have warmth and food. So it's just like in your house, you draw that kind of thing. It's easy meals, easy food. They're a threat to gear, not a threat to life. Snakes. There are snakes, rattlesnakes, copperheads, things like that. They'll give you some oh shit moments. You don't want to accidentally. You have to be aware. Depending where you're at, you have to be aware of them. That comes into play more as you get more north and the weather gets warmer and they're more active. Starting in Virginia, basically, maybe mid-Virginia is where you really got to start keeping an eye out. Even before that, but that's the main places. You could accidentally get bit by a snake, but I'm not too worried about it. And the last one, and the smallest thing is the biggest threat to me, and that's insects. You got biting flies. Once you get up towards Maine, mosquitoes, anywhere you're going to be when it starts to get warm and the weather's and the moisture's out there. The Appalachian Trail is a very wet trail, both with rain, water, humidity, that kind of thing. It's a very wet trail, and mosquitoes are going to be out there. But the biggest threat among the insects, the other ones, they're annoying. Mosquitoes, there is a minuscule chance you could catch something like West Nile virus or something like that. Ticks and Lyme disease. Ticks carry Lyme disease. Ticks are hard to spot. They're sneaky. You really got to be vigilant about ticks, and there are mitigating. You can mitigate that through some chemicals, permethrin, DEET, but you kind of want to keep the DEET down low. You don't want to overuse DEET. That'll help with the mosquitoes and stuff too, but you really You don't want to go too heavy on the DEET. Use it when necessary. Permethrin, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, people who know the trail know what I'm talking about. But you spray it on your clothes, your gear. You really got to be careful of ticks because Lyme disease is no joke. That goes straight into the next danger is illness. Besides Lyme disease, probably the other big health concern as far as illness on the trail is norovirus. Norovirus is contracted by being in group spaces, hygiene not being at a great level. It's passed through basically consuming feces. Now, nobody's out on the trail eating poop. I mean, there might be some, but I don't think they advertise it. But it's generally a unwitting consuming of fecal matter in small trace amounts from people not washing their hands properly, then touching things in the shelter. That's why shelters are a big concern as far as that goes. You want to keep an eye out on the trail, listen to the news, listen to the reports, see where the norovirus starts, because it always does. It always will. But there are ways that you can mitigate it. More dispersed camping, that is camping in spots along the trail that aren't necessarily associated with a shelter. People congregate towards shelters because they offer opportunities. There's sometimes, I want to say a lot of times there's going to be a privy, which is a basically a pit toilet. And then, you have the shelter area where people congregate. And when people congregate in places and you have less focus on hygiene, that's where that happens. So to avoid that, you don't want to necessarily avoid people, but be aware of what you're contacting. I want to make sure I'm washing my hands before I eat, or at least hand sanitizer. Other danger, other people. Let's talk about other people. Generally, the people who endeavor to hike the entire Appalachian Trail, or even section hikers, anybody like that, they're out there to enjoy nature, have a good time, get along with other people, meet new people. Generally, you're looking at a very decent group of people. You're not... Now, anytime you gather people together, there's going to be that one guy or gal. There's going to be unpredictable people that aren't out there for the most savory reasons, whatever. It's few and far between. Things have happened on the trail. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say, oh, it's perfect. Everybody's wonderful. But generally, if you use common sense, if you have any social skills whatsoever, you're going to be able to see signs. You're going to be able to skirt around people, leave people behind, or pass people up. Just get away from people that are kind of sketch. There's going to be sketch people. There's people, every year sometimes there's a homeless person that takes over a shelter. It happens. You hike on. You do what you got to do to keep yourself safe. If you use common sense and you don't go looking for trouble, chances are you aren't going to find it. The towns along the trail are very welcoming, very accepting. A lot of their economies depend on the hikers coming through, especially now in the wake of Helene. People aren't going to be any more of a problem on the trail than they are off the trail, and most likely less, to be honest with you. Injury, you got to watch where you're walking, roots, rocks, slipping. There's some technical climbs on the trail. It's not, it's not some wide boulevard, lined with trees and idyllic. There are parts that are very idyllic. I think specifically of, and I can only go by what I've seen from other people hiking, Shenandoah National Park is probably the closest thing you have to a place where it's like a red carpet, basically. I mean, that's not to say there aren't challenges there too, but in the entirety of the trail, the general sense is that the Shenandoahs are probably the easiest part of the trail. Not to say that there is an easy part, but it might conform more to what people will think of as easy walking, easy hiking. If you have further questions, if that didn't allay your fears or whatever, in the comments, drop me something I might have missed. Dangers that I might not have talked about here. Or, you know, if you're family or friend, you know, send me a text or whatever. But comments, if I missed something, let me know. I do plan on doing like a follow-up with more specific questions that I'll answer. But for now, I'm just trying to do the general, what I think, questions I might have if I was a family member of someone attempting this ridiculous feat. Fun part, this is the part I was more looking forward to, is the how. What, the very basic. Where are you gonna eat? What are you gonna eat? Where are you gonna sleep? And probably something people will be curious about that I want to get out of the way is like, where are you gonna go to the bathroom? First, where are you gonna sleep? Like, where are you gonna live? Like, you're walking all this way, what are you gonna do? Well, there are a lot of options. Main one, have a tent, sleeping pad, sleeping bag. You'll see all those in my gear video, which I have decided I'm gonna do a full out gear video because that is what the trail demands. And people who watch the trail demand. I was gonna try to get away with, I'm not gonna do a full gear video. Nobody wants it. Everybody does a good gear video. It's pretty much obligatory. So I will do a gear video, go over my gear, go over details on how I'm gonna manage these things. But sleep. Mostly tent. There are shelters. I mentioned shelters when I talked about the rodents. Throughout the trail, mostly you can get to a shelter pretty much every day of your hike. A shelter is usually a 3-sided structure. General. There are exceptions to this, but generally you're looking at a 3-sided shelter, open on one end, the front usually, and it's a place for people to put down their sleeping pads or sleeping bags, have a roof over your head, not a lot of protection from the wind, but some protection from rain, the elements. There's more, you get enough people in a shelter, that body heat, you know, but with the front being open, it doesn't provide, you know, it can be tight sometimes, especially when I'm starting kind of in the bubble. The bubble, I should explain that term. The bubble is when you have a lot of hikers in the same part of the trail at the same time, and that bubble moves up. They call it the bubble. That's the highest population of people on the trail. March 6th, it used to be early bubble. Today it's more middle bubble. A lot of more people starting in February than perhaps it used to be. And it's spread out because people are trying to avoid the huge crowd. I'm starting the 6th of March, which is between 2 spikes in population. A lot of people start their hikes on 1st and 15th of the months. So if you look at when people start in January, not a lot of people start in January, but the people who do, 1st or the 15th. If you look at February, 1st and the 15th are the big days. March, 1st and the 15th are the big days. So when I selected my day, I picked a weekday to help, and I also picked somewhere between 2 spikes in population. So I've looked at the chart. You know, I registered my hike with the ATC. So I'm registered for the 6th, which is in between the 1st and the 15th spike. There'll still be plenty of people out there. I think last time I checked, there were like 12 people who registered. Not everybody registers. But of the people who registered, there's about 12 people starting the day I am, which is probably the lowest you're going to get in March. And I think it is. I think it's the lowest populated start date in March. So besides shelters, I have my tent, and that's where I'm going to be spending. I'm going to go out and just throw out a bullshit number 80% of the time. 90% of the time, I'll be in my tent. I'll stay in a shelter in certain conditions. I'm not going to avoid them like the plague, even though they might actually have plague. But there are shelters that I might want to stay in. It'll happen. You also have hiker hostels. Now those are a hiker hostel is somewhere between, okay, it's a far away from a shelter, not too far away from a hotel, but it is between those two. You're looking at better accommodations, usually a bunk room, a group setting where it's a lot of people in one room, bunk beds a lot of times, sometimes, whatever they can cobble together. Hostels are so different. There's no standard. The higher end ones do have a bunk room, just a traditional bunk room with bunks in them. Some of them offer private room, semi-private room. There's all kinds of different options when it comes to hostels. They do tend to be less expensive than a hotel. Hotels in some places are an option. You can get a room yourself. You can share a room with 1, 2, 3, 4 hikers. Who knows? And then there are more unique lodging experiences on trail. I'll give one example. I don't want to get into spoilers because, I want you to see some of the places just on my journey. I don't want to give up way too much. But there is the one I think about that's interesting to me that I might want to check out is there is a drive-in movie theater in New York that allows hikers, or they charge you. It's kind of a small fee, especially when you think of New York. I don't remember what the exact fee is. It might change from year to year. I think last time I checked, it was cheap. It was like less than $20, or 5 or 10. I don't know. I don't remember. But you could camp at the drive-in movie theater. They'll rent you like the speaker. You can rent a chair, and you can watch a movie and then camp there for the night. That sounds really cool and interesting, and I've seen other people do it, and it looks like a fun time if I get around doing it. There are other unique lodging experiences. There's an alpaca farm in Virginia. There are shelters that are non-traditional shelters that are actually buildings. It's really cool and really interesting, and I'll try to experience as much as I can, show y'all. I want to experience it. I want you to experience it through me. I'm looking forward to that part. But 90% of the time you'll see me go and sleep in my tent in the woods. I'm naturally frugal. I don't want to spend a ton of money on lodging when I'm trying to do a bare bones, hike here. What will I drink? Well, water, for the most part. For the most part, I'll drink water. Hikers use different methods to purify water. You're basically getting your water from water sources along the trail. We're talking about creeks, streams, springs. Generally, I'm going to want to choose a running water source. I have a water filter. It's basically you fill a reservoir, a bag, with water. The filter that I have, a Sawyer filter, comes with a bag. I'm using a different bag. I'm going to use a third-party bag for that, but basically you fill that with your water, you squeeze. It's called the Sawyer Squeeze. You can do it gravity-fed, like hang it and let gravity do your filtering for you. Or if you're in a hurry, you need the water now, you can squeeze it through the filter into a clean bottle. A lot of people use smart water bottles. It tends to be like the most popular water receptacle on the trail for your drinking water. You also need water for cooking. But everybody uses. There are also pills. There's different ways to filter your water. I'm using a water filter, a Sawyer Squeeze filter. That gets rid of most of the things, the only thing that won't protect against is something like Giardia. If you're getting your water from non-sketchy, I might take like just some water purification tablets just as an extra measure, and if the water seems kind of sketchy. There aren't a lot of, the only places I've heard about water on the AT maybe being sort of sketchy is in New York, but I think that is more towards taste and the way it looks rather than actual dangerous water, like unhealthy water. But if it tastes bad, but mostly water's pretty simple. You just got to keep an eye out. A lot of people stay at shelters because there's usually a water source associated with it. But water won't be hard to come by. Food. This is probably my favorite. My favorite. If you've ever been camping, backpacking, you're aware probably that there are freeze-dried meals that are made by different companies. Probably the main one people know about is Mountain House. They're freeze-dried meals. They're light, easy to carry, all in one thing. You pour water in it. You follow the instructions. You got your boiling water. You always have to boil water. You put your boiling water in it, follow the instructions as much as they tell you, and boom. You rehydrated it. You rehydrate it. 15 minutes later, you got something to eat. There are cheaper. Those are expensive. There are cheaper options. You're never far from civilization. So we're talking until you get to maybe Maine. Generally speaking, you're never going to be more than 3 or 4 days between resupply options. Sometimes it's even less than that. Shenandoah National Park has a lot of eating options. There's waysides where you can drop in and get something to eat. Once you get up north where things are more dense population, you're going to have a lot more food options alongside. But generally speaking, you're not going to have a problem. It's more of a what can you prepare on the trail. You're going to have access to grocery stores to get food. You're going to have hostels, a lot of times have resupply options right there. There are sometimes a convenience store, gas station. You know, those aren't ones you really look at for a main resupply, but you have access. You're going to be able to get to places to buy food, what people buy, what people pack out. You have to understand that, generally speaking, unless you're out there humping crazy amounts of cooking stuff, you're basically going to have your stove, whatever your heating source is. I have a little isobutane stove. I'll show it to you in the gear video. And you have a pot, and basically anything you can cook by boiling water. And you can get as creative with that as you want. There are different methods. There's a method called cold soaking, which is basically where you put something where you would boil it until it's edible, but you just put it in air temperature water and soak it. There's whole systems for that. I'm not going to do that. But basically, whatever you can do with boiling water, you can do on trail with enough creativity. Some things people look at, your Knorr rice sides, Idahoan instant potatoes, cured meats like say summer sausage, beef jerky, things like that are a good element to add to your meals. You're gonna kind of eat like crap. You're gonna eat a lot of junk food, honey buns, stuff to give you energy. I'm gonna try to, at least for my breakfast, I'm looking for myself personally. I'm looking at starting out by doing like oatmeal, maybe putting some dried fruit in my oatmeal or raisins or I don't know. I'll come up with stuff. Snacking throughout the day, I'm gonna try to put together, a decent trail mix that has a mix of protein from nuts or whatever, some sugars, maybe some peanut M&Ms, or you just want to make sure you're getting the nutrients you need. It's not gonna be great. Peanut butter is a big thing on trail. Ramen is a big thing on trail. When you get to town, that's when you can really feast. I'll be able to, there's a thing that sets in after a while on the trail. You're running a calorie deficit. You're expending a lot of calories out there. A lot of calories. And your average person doesn't take in that amount. I know I don't. People are always pointing out how I'm losing weight. I kind of don't eat. But I'll have to. I have to eat. I'm gonna try to start building up to eating more and making sure I get the nutrition I need, because I don't want to end up on trail. You know, I've seen it a lot of times where folks will neglect, and they'll neglect their nutrition, and will get to a part of the trail and just be wiped out, and they can't do it. And I think a lot of times we'll rely more on the quick energy that comes from sugar and candy and things like that. It's like that quick boost without really getting something substantive in there. So you want to make sure you're getting your calories and your protein out there on the trail. There is a phenomenon that occurs when you're running a calorie deficit like that. Hikers will refer to a thing called hiker hunger, which it kicks in at different places for different people. I'm looking forward to it, actually, because I kind of, it's something I'm looking forward to. A little thing I'm looking forward to is just seeing how creative I can get with the things I'm eating. On your first day out, when it's cooler outside, like let's say in Georgia, when it's still, it gets into the 40s and 50s, at night, and then some days if cold front comes through, you might be able to pack out, if you have a way to cook it, you can pack out like a pack of hot dogs or something. I mean, you don't want to do that, you don't want to save that for your fourth day before your resupply. That's something you'd want to eat like right away as kind of like a treat. It's really about what you're willing to carry. Most people will have a spoon, a pot, their stove, and that is the extent of their cooking setup. And that's basically where I am. I have this big titanium fork, I have a cooking pot, and I have my stove. Probably won't cook much, like as far as food goes. I'm just gonna basically boil water in it. I have some collapsible cups for coffee, so they're not gonna be dishes to wash. You spoon, you wipe it off. You're out in the woods. Okay. But yeah, that's kind of easy peasy. Let's see, what else do we want to get into? And now, once you eat, what goes in must come out. Eventually. Now, there are, at shelters, there are sometimes, not always, but there are privies. Basically, if you've ever gone camping, if you've ever been out in the woods, basically an outhouse. They're gonna stink, they're gonna be nasty, they're gonna be gross. You get into town, obviously, you use a toilet, but eventually there's gonna come a time when you gotta break out the trowel and just take a big old dump in the woods. There are rules about that. Leave no trace principles. There's a distance from the trail you want to be. I think it's 100 feet. But you want to get far away from water sources or the trail when you do that. Unfortunately, not everyone uses leave no trace principles, and you're gonna get this. I intend to leave no trace principle. I'm not going to be leaving toilet paper or my waste around for everyone else to enjoy, because they're not going to enjoy that, and I'm not going to enjoy it when inevitably you run into places where people are not as fastidious about that kind of thing. It's unfortunate, it exists, but eventually, yeah, basic answer, gonna have to poop in the woods. That's that. But if there's any, I think I covered a lot of basic things. I know I missed things. I'm already like going over, oh, you should mention that, you should mention that, but this video is super long. And I'm going to do a follow-up, like more detailed Q&A with specific questions people might have. Family members, friends, shoot me that message, shoot me that DM. YouTubers, stick it down there in the comments. While you're down there, go ahead and like this video, subscribe. Tell me what else you want to see. Tell me what else you want to know before I go. Next video is going to... I might want to save the gear video for when I actually quit my job to have nothing else to do, because I kind of want to like set up camp in the backyard. Set up my tent, set up my sleep system, kind of set it up, show my stove, show my stuff, wear my clothes, kind of give you that. A lot of people put it like, you know, put their gear in a tarp, and that's cool. That's cool. Those tend to bore me a little bit though sometimes. You know, you see enough of them, you start to drift off. So I kind of want to set up camp, show it that way. It's an idea I have. If you think that's a bad idea, let me know. Let me know any other ideas you have in the comments. Also, I might, between like this video and that video, I am thinking of doing, I've read a lot of books about the Appalachian Trail, and I want to go over resources for people who might want to get trail news, see what other people who've hiked the trail say. You know, a lot of things I'm saying here are things that I've gleaned from other people who have done it far better than I have. But I have to make content so y'all don't forget about me before I go on trail. So I gotta make it. There's people that have done it better. You can watch others. And that's, in the next video, I'm gonna do probably some book reviews. I'm gonna give you some resources where you can learn more about the Appalachian Trail, learn more about hiking the Appalachian Trail, because there's a lot of things, I haven't done it yet. That's the thing. I can't speak as an authority on what it's going to be like because I don't know. I mean, I think I understand a lot, but I don't want to get into that attitude where I think because I've watched, 100 million people do the trail, that does not translate to knowledge that I have. That does not translate to experiences that I have. I think I'd be setting myself up for failure if I thought I knew everything just by watching YouTube videos. That would be insane. It would be like watching... I think the analogy I want to put is like, say you watch a show like Survivor or any reality show or anything like that, and you become a fan of that show, and you're like, oh, I can do that way better than them. I know what I'd do in that situation. No, you don't. You think you do, but you don't. So, and I want to keep that attitude. I don't know, and I don't want to pretend like I do. I've given some basic information, how I think things will be, or what I expect things to be, but that could all go down the drain. The minute I set foot on trail, I'm gonna know nothing, and I'm gonna be lost, and it's gonna be glorious, because I'm gonna learn, and I'm gonna grow, and y'all are gonna get to watch me. It's gonna be awesome, and we're gonna do this, guys. We're gonna do this, and at some point you're gonna see me summit Katahdin, and it'll be sweeter because chances I shouldn't be able to do it, but I'm gonna do it because mentally I'm not leaving myself any other options. Like I said in probably my first video, barring physical injury, I'm doing it. Something bad is gonna have to happen, and I hope it doesn't. I allow for the possibility that it will, but I'm not going to go in with a defeatist attitude. It's like, I don't know if I can do this, guys. I can do it. This doesn't matter, will I do it? But anyway, thanks for showing up. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one when I do something fun. I talk about books I've read because I'm a nerd, and hopefully you're a nerd, and you'll probably want to read some of these books. A couple things on the list, just in case you need a teaser. I'm going to be going over about Grandma Gatewood. And if you don't know who she is, don't look her up, because I want to tell you. And then I want to sell you her book, even though I get nothing from selling her book. Well, not her book, somebody else wrote it. But that book, I don't get anything from selling it, so I don't know why. But I'll probably talk about A Walk in the Woods by Bryson. I'll talk about it. If you're a fan of Bryson, you probably won't like it, but I'll talk about it. And a few more. So, look forward to that. I look forward to doing it. Conference championships are. Philly's playing Washington right now, and then I gotta watch the Bills in Kansas City. So, and I've got beer in there, and I want to drink some beer, and I want to cook some Italian sausage. So, I gotta go.